Live from the KWQC Broadcast Center, this is the second half hour of TV6 News at Noon.
Welcome back, and we have more information on today's top story, a shooting investigation at the Jackson County Courthouse. KWQC's Brian Bozen just arrived at the scene, and he joins us now live. So, Brian, what have you been able to find out?
Well, so far, Marcia, what we know is that there was a shooting here at the Jackson County Courthouse, but there are a few details being released at this point. It happened earlier this morning, they think around about 11 a.m. or so. Right now, the courthouse is on lockdown. No one is allowed inside or out. That confirmation coming from an executive assistant to the supervisor here at the courthouse. Standing over here when we arrived, there were a few people on scene. Right now, it's pretty empty, but there is still an ambulance here on scene. As a precautionary measure, we would imagine at this point. A witness earlier today told us that she could see two ambulances. One of them came quickly with sirens blaring and then left quickly as well to presumably take someone to the hospital. But at this point, we have no direct confirmation on any injuries. We'll be working to get all of that. I spoke with the superintendent of schools here. The schools in the entire city were on lockdown after they heard about this shooting incident. They have since been given the all clear, so everyone is safe at that point. What we're going to be working to determine is exactly what happened. We're expecting a press conference here at the courthouse within about the next. We should have a lot more details in what happened after. We're going to ask about metal detectors and maybe how a gun got inside. We're also going to be asking about the situation that may have led to this situation. So we have many more questions to be asked, and we'll have more on that. We also spoke to a witness who got the call that somebody or something had happened here at the courthouse. Her soon-to-be daughter-in-law is actually the county attorney, and she was working inside at the time. We're going to have her emotional story coming up later tonight. But right now, what we know is there was a shooting, and we're going to be we'll get a lot more details and have them for you later here on KWC. For now,
all right, Brian Bozen reporting live from Maquoketa. Again, we will have updates as they become available.
Also very lucky the Board of Supervisor member was as close as he was. He probably saved a life.
The very latest on the shooting at the Jackson County Courthouse. And we begin with the latest developments out of Maquoketa, where a shooting took place during a County Board of Supervisors meeting at the courthouse. KWQC's Brian Bozen broke this story on our News at Noon. He joins us now live with what police say happened inside that meeting room.
Sharon, they say the gunman is dead. One county supervisor is recovering from his injuries after a shooting here at the Jackson County Courthouse earlier this morning. The coroner just removed the body of the gunman here about a half an hour ago, but tonight the courthouse remains closed after this center of justice turned crime scene just before 11 this morning. The building and all Maquoketa schools were put on lockdown after Sheriff Russ Kedman says a man inside the Board of Supervisors meeting pulled a gun and opened fire. That man has been identified as former city manager Francis Gus Glaser. The sheriff says Glaser has been upset for some time over his property taxes going up. He'd attended many of these meetings, they say, but today Kedman says Glaser got very vocal, caused a disruption. The meeting was then recessed, and that's when Kedman says Glaser pulled a gun out of his briefcase and fired one shot at County Assessor Deb Lane as she was leaving the room. He says County Supervisor Larry Kwqc was sitting nearby, immediately jumped into action. Two others jumped in too, and that was when during that struggle that a second shot went off from Glaser's gun, hitting Glaser, who died shortly thereafter. During a news conference today, Sheriff Kedman called Kwqc a hero.
He was there. If he wouldn't have been there, there's more than one shot could have happened really easy, and wasn't for him and another couple guys that were sitting there, it could have been a lot worse than it was.
And it's important to note that Kwqc was not injured by gunfire. We're told Larry Kwqc, when he tackled Glaser, his arm went through a plate glass door. He was treated at the hospital for cuts to his arm and to his wrist. No one else was hurt except for Glaser and Kwqc in this incident. Tonight at 5 and 6, we're going to hear from witnesses who were inside the building when this all happened and others who were anxiously awaiting to know that their loved ones inside were safe. We're also going to learn more about security within the courthouse. courthouse and what they may plan to be doing here in the near future, and also how the gunman was able to get a gun inside. More on the way. For now, live in Maquoketa, Brian Bozen, KWQC TV6 News.
And of course, look for updates on this developing situation through our Twitter page, Facebook, and on KWQC.com.
And courthouse turned crime scene. One person is dead, another injured after a meeting turned violent this morning. Shots fired inside a local county courthouse. It is a developing story we are following out of Maquoketa, Iowa. Good evening, I'm Gary Mativier.
And I'm Sharon DeRig. Tonight, authorities say the gunman is dead and a county supervisor injured. It happened around 11 this morning during a weekly meeting for the Board of Supervisors in Jackson County. Authorities say 71-year-old Francis Gus Glazer became upset about his property taxes, pulled a gun from a briefcase, and shot at the county assessor as she was leaving the room. The assessor was not hit, but that's when one of the county supervisors, Larry Kwqc, jumped into action. Authorities say Kwqc tackled Glazer and two others jumped in to get the situation under control. But during that struggle, a second shot went off from Glazer's gun. Glazer was hit and died at the scene. Kwqc was injured in the struggle but treated and released from the hospital. KWQC's Brian Bozen has been following this story all day. He joins us now live tonight with an emotional day for many in the area.
That's exactly right, Sharon. Witnesses who were inside at the time tell us they're simply rocked and shaken tonight after this shooting today. They say that when all this happened, they didn't really know how to react. They had to run, flee at the moment. They say a lot about the gunman's body lying on the floor and the fact that shots were fired during a routine public meeting. In a news conference earlier this afternoon, law enforcement told us they couldn't remember any previous incidents like this inside the courthouse. They say there's no permanent metal detectors or security really at the building's entrances because, as Sheriff Russ Kettman put it to us, they simply didn't need that level of protection before. Sheriff Kettman says the gunman, 71-year-old Gus Glazer, was able to bring that small handgun into the courthouse in his briefcase. After the meeting, of course, he pulled the gun out trying to shoot County Assessor Deb Lane. As you mentioned, she wasn't hit, and that's when he was tackled and shot by his own gun during the struggle. A woman, Katie Reardon, has lived in Maquoketa all her life. Her soon-to-be daughter-in-law is the county attorney here and was in the building when the shots were fired. She is set to have the wedding here in the next weekend here in Maquoketa. Reardon talks about the moment that she found out that her future daughter-in-law was okay.
Just the relief of it all, you know. I just want to cry. It's just so great feeling that she's good, you know.
The gunman's body was taken out of the building just about an hour and a half ago. Much more investigation still to come. We mentioned security concerns here at the courthouse, that there's no metal detectors and no security guards at the entrances or officers in the meeting. Well, the sheriff says that may be changing. We'll have a lot more from him coming up tonight at 6, as well as more from another woman who was actually inside the meeting just before this all went down. But for now, live in Maquoketa, Brian Bozen, KWQC TV6 News.
Dozens of people were inside the courthouse at the time. Counseling is being made available for those who need it. And look for continuing coverage on this story tonight at 6 and 10, and any updates on our website, kwqc.com.